talk about the Florida man. Now, I'm going to do this episode of the Florida man. And I want to take a break from the news cycle. We are going to be talking about Greenland today. Greenland, they are sitting on a gold mine, big gold boom. And I think that's going to kill their the United States annexation dreams, or it might work to the advantage of the United States to annex Greenland, being that they're sitting on this gold mine. And Trump was exactly right. We need it for strategic military reasons. We just need it. Okay. We need to be offensive with China. They've been offensive with us using the Western Hemisphere. You've got Colombia, Cuba, Venezuela, Mexico. I talked about this earlier. The Mexican president there, Donald Trump, kind of came out and said that she's a nice person and that she's deathly afraid of the cartel. That's probably true. So I think there's two options for this Mexican president right now. She can either be killed by the cartel or work with the president, get into some sort of protection, witness protection, and work with the United States. We go into Mexico, we take it over. I mean, we should just take back the Western Hemisphere because it's already been taken by China, Iran, our adversaries. And what they're doing in those countries is not right. They're withholding resources from their people. The people are starving. The people are not being taken care of. What we can do is go in, take all the oil from Venezuela, take the resources. Mexico is a beautiful country. We could take all those resources, sell it, provide, and put money back into, provide for those people. And people say that's not America first. Look, folks, I don't know what's more America first. We've got an adversary right there on our heels in our backyard, and we've got to do something about it. And that's what Donald Trump did in Venezuela by capturing Maduro, taking the oil. They're going to be shipping, I think, 30 barrels of oil over to the United States here soon. So we've got so much to talk about when it comes to Greenland. There's Greenland and Denmark. They're requesting an urgent meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And this comes as we find out more about this gold mine that Greenland has. It's gigantic, this gold mine. And it's looking like the evidence. This is not some exploration mission. The evidence is pointing to that this is gold. Okay. And the United States definitely wants it. There's 50,000 people there in Greenland. They've got to decide whether they're going to be for their sovereignty and they're an autonomous possession of Denmark. So they don't really have a ton of sovereignty, or like they're not really their own nation. But they do kind of like govern themselves over there, the Greenlanders. And they've got to decide, hey, should we have the United States protect this gold that we've stumbled upon? And I think that's why they're calling for this urgent meeting with Secretary Marco Rubio. So Secretary of State Marco Rubio, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. But we couldn't, I know about that problem. Okay. So we've got sound now. Subscribe. Let me start with the Florida man. So the Florida man story, this is a nice break from the drumbeat of the news cycle. And this is a tale. Let me start with our tale. It begins in Polk County. So Polk County Sheriff Office deputies, and I love Polk County Sheriff. We're going to get to him, Grady Judd. He's hilarious. The deputies, they came in, 39-year-old guy in a construction zone. Okay. And he was there, and there was no trespassing signs posted everywhere, very visible. He was there in the wee hours of the morning, 1 a.m., mid-December. Okay. His name is Matthew Zaccarino, Altamonte Springs, Florida. That's where he's from. The affidavit states that he was standing next to his vehicle and he was putting on, wait for it, female clothing, a bra, some panties. And Sheriff Grady Judd of Polk County, he said the guy was wearing a red lace bra. He had silicone titties, and he was wearing a G-string, and he was showing off the boys, if you know what I mean. Okay, so it gets worse. The deputies say that this was a very highly unusual situation. The situation gets worse because Matthew Zaccarino, the 39-year-old guy with the fake titties, He said that he was on his way to a costume party. Okay. And then he was asked, okay, where's the party? Who's going to be there? Where are you headed? And he was unable, shockingly, he was unable to tell the officers exactly where he was going. And here's where things got crazy. The affidavit states that Matthew Zaccarino of Florida was unable to provide a location, direction, identify individuals that were going to be present at this little shindig, this party, this supposed party. And the affidavit also states that the deputies, they issued several lawful commands saying, hey, stop moving, ordered the suspect to stop moving. He refused to comply. He removed his bra, removed his silicone breast. Apparently there was a gun there. And he began reaching inside of his vehicle. At that time, officers were like, hell no, we're going to apprehend the suspect. And they handcuffed him. So Grady Judd, he had a morning briefing on Monday. And he said that this situation was extremely dangerous for officers. Yeah, I could imagine. Brady starts out, he goes, occasionally I bring you stuff that you can't believe and that you'd never get over. And he starts out the briefing and he says, this, I think, is going to scar you. So let me play Grady Judd here. Here we go.
Occasionally, I bring you stuff that you just can't believe, that you'll never get over, that may even scar you for life. But I got to introduce you to this guy. He's not from Polk County, of course. I don't think we got anybody from Polk County quite like this guy. This is Matthew Zaccarino. He's 39. He's from Altamont Springs. And he's on this construction site in a vehicle by himself. And as our deputies approach him to see what's he doing on this construction site, we see this dude wearing a red lace bra with prosthetic silicone breastises. Know what I mean? Well, then we notice he's wearing a G-string, showing off the boys. You know what I mean? And then our two deputies say to themselves, Self, this is highly unusual. But you don't realize how dangerous these situations are, because under a prosthesis, we found a gun. So he was armed trespassing. He said he was on the way to the costume party. We go, okay, where's the costume party? Well, he couldn't answer that, and then he stalled up on us and quit wanting to talk at all. Can you imagine that? He's mad at us for trying to find out why he's wearing lace bras with guns and G-strings or G-somethings or, ooh, it was ugly. It was so ugly. Anyway, he went to jail. Have a good day.
Anyway, you went to jail. Have a great day. I love this sheriff. He's like my favorite sheriff in the nation. Can you imagine that? You know, he's mad because they're trying to figure out what he's doing in this, you know, no trespassing zone, a construction zone. And he was getting all busy because they was being questioned. And I love how Grady Judd, he goes, well, anyway, he went to jail. Yeah. According to the Polk County Sheriff's Office, Zaccarino was arrested and charged with armed trespass, resisting without violence. He didn't, but he did have a gun. He was loitering, he was prowling, and he was released on $6,250 bond. So for now, that ends our little Florida man episode here on the Conservative Cat Show. We now return to our regular crazy news cycle. Donald Trump, he just does things, and I can't predict his moves. Okay, so there's actually this TikTok. It was hilarious. I'm a big fan of TikTok. If you guys can't tell, I'm like 26 years old, and I'm kind of into TikTok, which is funny because, you know, am I too old for TikTok? Probably. But there was this TikTok, and this guy, he was like going to go tie his shoe, and then all of a sudden he does like a spin move, and then he like shoots a basketball into a basketball hoop, and then he goes to, like, you think he's getting onto a bike to ride it, and then all of a sudden he spin moves off of that and does like 50 push-ups or something. So like, I never know what President Donald Trump is going to do, but he has made no bones about this. He wants Greenland. Okay. It is his desire to make Greenland a part of the United States. Now, Greenland has a strategic location. Much like Alaska in the Pacific, Greenland stands as a monitor of Atlantic's axis. So it's kind of like the access point, and it's only going to become more and more strategically important, Greenland. Okay. Long range aircraft in Alaska and Greenland can not only dominate the Arctic, but much of the western or northern hemisphere. So if you have Alaska, which we do, and if you have Greenland, you control the northern hemisphere. And right now, China is controlling the western hemisphere outside of the United States, but they've got all those South American countries, and it's a big, big problem. So, and we've gone into that. That's exactly why Donald Trump went into Venezuela, took Maduro, is taking the oil. I think they're shipping 30 barrels of oil over to the United States from Venezuela. It's a thick oil. It's not really refined like Iran. Iran and China, they're cozy. Okay. It's not even that we need the oil. I mean, look at gas prices right now. They're what, like $2? It's $2 a gallon. We don't even really need the oil. We're going in, we're taking the oil because we don't want China to have it. China has gone into Venezuela. They're not being good to the Venezuelan people, and they're stealing the oil, and they're making money off of it. And they're being adversarial with the United States by taking over really the Western Hemisphere in a shady way, where they do these infrastructure deals with these poor countries and put these poor countries into debt to them. Anyway, so Greenland, great deal of oil and mineral wealth. We knew that, but there's something that we didn't know, and that a lot of people don't know about. Greenland is getting a lot more attention in the end of this year, beginning of 2026. Why? Because there is a gold in them there hills. Okay. They struck gold. And on December 4th, so this is recent, Amarok, they just dropped their results from their 2025 drilling program. Now, this is called the Nalinak Gold Mine, and this is in southern Greenland. And, corporate language, and I went through this report that they had released in 2025. There's a lot of corporate language. I went through it, and I pulled out, the tidbits for you, because that's what I do here at the Conservative Cat Show. If you want to support the program, throw in your support for Patriot Pump Energy. Love the company. Pre-workout, it's good stuff. Fruit punch, 150 milligrams of caffeine. And you can get $10 off today by using promo code Conservative Cat. Now, Greenland, they've got this Nalinak. I'm going to mispronounce that all of the show. It's this gold mine in southern Greenland, and this mine is alive and rich. So that is what this 2025 drilling program report came out December 4th said. Essentially, it is alive and rich, and they are getting close to producing real gold again. Now, there's some history here with this gold mine. The Nalinak, they were a past producing gold mine. This was a past producing gold mine. Amarok wasn't there producing it. It proved itself, this gold mine, from 2004 to 2009. They pulled 350,000 ounces, that's a lot of gold, out of the ground before the previous owner shut it down. Now, everybody speculated that the previous owner shut it down because that must mean that the gold ran out. No. Management pulled out. It's tough to drill, and I'm going to get into mining and some of the practices and the technologies that they use, but it's got to be worth it. There's got to be gold there. If they're not anticipating gold to be there, they're not going to dump all of this work into the operation. Okay. But management, they just pulled out, and I don't think it was because the gold wasn't there. I think it was just because the operation just got to be so heavy. And they pulled out. Amarok came in and they took over this massive property. It is 8,000 square kilometers. And they didn't play ESG games, nothing like that. Okay. What they did once Amarok got into Greenland, southern Greenland, they, took their operation seriously, and they began to drill. Okay. Now, here's where it gets a little jargony. It gets a little confusing if you're not a geologist. but I'm going to try to explain some of these terms to you and what they're exactly doing, Amarok, there, because I want to make it clear that this is not exploration. This is not like we're looking for gold. No, there's gold, and the evidence is becoming very loud. So there's something called underground resource conversion drilling. So that's drilling done inside of the mine from the existing tunnels that are there to confirm that gold it already the gold that's already known to be there. So we know that there's gold that exists there right now, but they're going to be doing this underground resource conversion drilling, and they're going to try to figure out how much gold there actually is. What they do, they drill the holes into this high grade rock or high grade intercept, and they cut into this rock, and it contains a lot of gold. And they're going to see how much of that gold is actually economically viable and is actually high grade. And the tunnels already exist. They're just confirming that the gold is there and how much of it is actually like mineable gold, economically valuable stuff. So they're cutting through the rock that contains a lot of gold. And what I think we're looking at here in Greenland, we're not looking at trace amounts. We're looking at, and we're not looking at maybe gold, maybe someday gold, because there can be some sort of process where you turn maybe gold into mineable gold. It's not a lot of that stuff, but actually economically meaningful gold, I think, is there. And this company thinks is there. So the mine sits in southern Greenland. It's very remote. And this is geopolitically important. And I'm going to get to why here in just a second. But Greenland is not just ice and polar bears. I think that Americans, we just kind of think of Greenland and we're like, oh, it's ice and polar bears. A lot of people that live there, it's not as livable as, say, Alaska. 50,000 people live there, and it's mainly the livable parts are on the coast there. And, you know, it's not just ice and polar bears. This is a strategic resource frontier, especially as the West looks for alternatives to the Chinese-controlled supply chains. We don't want China getting Greenland. We want Greenland. Like I said, you control the northern hemisphere if you have Alaska and Greenland. And China is probably going to, I'm shocked that they haven't made the move yet to try to squeeze their way in to provide defense. I mean, right now, Denmark does that for Greenland. It is an autonomous possession of Denmark, Greenland. But I want to be clear, Amarok, this company that does the mining, they're not relying on outdated assumptions, okay? They have created their own modern structural geology models, okay? And basically what that means is that they have done the mapping of how the faults and the rock layers kind of line up and where that gold ends. And they've done geochemical analysis, and they can track the chemical footprints, and they can tell you where that high grade gold system continues in this mine. And they can target it, they can drill it, they can mine it. They can even convert maybe gold into mineable, economically meaningful gold. Like, this is a gold mine on, confidence. This is not hype. The confidence is increasing here. This is evidence. And the Nalanek is no longer a what if, okay, at this point. And we live in a world of debt, paper money, and government lies. And gold, the price is high right now. And Greenland they've got the leverage. Okay, people want that. And they have called for an urgent meeting with Marco Rubio. Denmark and Greenland have called for an urgent meeting. And I'm going to show a graphic, and I showed this earlier, but here you go. This is a graphic, and this kind of shows you the proposed development, Amarok is giving us a pretty good understanding of the scope of this project, the Nalanek project. Now, this is where it kind of gets crazy. Okay, you can kind of see. I mean, this is huge. This is a huge gold mine. Lots of money, and they're saying, like, this is how you know that this is real. Amarok is saying that this drilling de-risks near-term production, which is geology speak for there's enough gold in here to resume operations, and resuming operations in this abandoned gold mine is worthwhile. Okay. So this is going to pique the interest of the United States, obviously, in the Trump administration. I'd imagine he already has mentioned that there's mineral wealth there. But I don't think any of us knew to the extent, to what extent, let alone gold. Okay. So people are going to say, oh, well, maybe this makes it more likely that the United States annex Greenland because it makes Greenland more valuable and more attractive to the United States. Donald Trump wanted Greenland before the gold, okay? I think that this might make annexation harder and possibly less likely. And here's where the conversation gets really interesting, my friends, okay? People hear that Greenland just got more valuable after this 2025 report from Amarok. Oh, wow, this is extremely valuable. And we immediately jump to this idea that the United States will automatically annex it because it's more valuable, and that we're capable of doing that, and we can plant a flag and we can call it US 2.0, US territory. Okay. But I think that it's going to make it 10 times harder. And here's why. Yes, Greenland became more valuable, but that's exactly why annexation is less likely, because they think that they've got leverage now, and they do. But let's be real. This is this is not really a country, and it's 50,000 people who live there. Okay. So stay with me, because this is why this matters. Greenland is, like I had mentioned earlier, an autonomous possession of Denmark. So that means Greenland governs itself internally while Denmark handles the foreign policy and the defense. What little defense. And if they were smart, Greenland, they would let us come in and defend them and annex the land to us. Okay. Because let's be real, they've got a cash cow there, or a prized possession, and they're not capable of defending it. And somebody's going to take it by force. And it's not going to be as pretty as if the United States were to come in there, annexation agreement, and then we take care of the people of Greenland. Okay. And, everybody's going to say, this isn't America first. It is. We have to protect our national security. We want our neighbors to not be adversarial with us. We want Christian values, Western values spread across the world. And this is domination. Okay. And I'm excited about it. But anyway, so this autonomous, that's the key word here, autonomous. They are an autonomous possession. So the Greenlanders, they see themselves as stewards of their own land. They see themselves as stewards of their own future wealth at this point. So it's going to be breaking through that. So this project, like the Nalanek gold mine, they are sitting on high-grade gold, and, this high-grade gold doesn't automatically belong to the United States. Okay. In theory, it belongs to the Greenlanders. But you have to remember this. Donald Trump doesn't just want the gold, okay? He wants the strategic military value, the shipping lanes, the Arctic access, the missile defense, China containment. He wants Greenland for all of those reasons. The gold is just like a surprise bonus. So he has openly discussed mineral wealth. He says Greenland is rich in minerals, and he has talked about that. And he has rattled a lot of people saying that he wants Greenland up to this point. Now, throw the gold in the mix. They're going to call Trump a dictator. But at this point, I think Trump is like screw you, I'm flipping you off. Like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I'm like a senior in high school. I've got senioritis, and I'm going to do what's best for America. And I'm not going to listen to your accusations that I'm a dictator, and I'm trying to take everybody's resources and take away people's sovereignty for the United States to have those resources. It's not so much about the resources, because let's be real, like, prices are coming down. Gas is affordable. Like, we've got enough oil. I think that we're fine as far as resources go. We just struck a mineral deal with Ukraine. There's no need, really. It's just kind of nice added bonuses, I suppose. But the primary reason is to ensure that the United States is prominent in that northern hemisphere, and we're trying to also simultaneously take back the western hemisphere from China. So Greenland's perspective at this point, they think that joining with the United States doesn't automatically mean freedom and prosperity. They think that there's going to be all kinds of risks with this. The risk of federal control, where they don't have their sovereignty anymore. They're not really sovereign because they are an autonomous possession of Denmark. But they're scared to lose what little tiny kind of sovereignty they have. They're scared of losing their leverage. There's a risk of losing, and they have it. They've got leverage. There's going to be people swooping in to try to get that gold, and to swoop in and take Greenland for the strategic military position that it's in. And there's a risk as well if the United States were to annex Greenland and make the Greenland a part of the United States. There's a risk of having resource decisions, especially surrounding gold, dictated by people 3,000 miles away who have never really lived near Arctic rocks in their lives. They don't know anything about Greenland. That's the United States, okay? So I understand what risks they're kind of worried about, probably, these Greenlanders at this point. Your land is suddenly worth a ton, okay? And especially when gold gets involved, you're really not in a rush to give it up. And being that they're kind of autonomous right now, these 50,000 people, they kind of want to guard the gold, and they want to keep their somewhat sovereignty, okay? And here's the kicker. Like, I can't express enough that this is huge. The Nalinac gold mine is just only the start, because there's something in the Nalinac gold mine. It's called the main vein. And then there's also the mountain block. Okay. And these are areas in the gold mine that we know about that still have gold in them. Okay. And ongoing drilling suggests that that mineral system is way larger than the main vein and the mountain block. And this is just the start. And that, this southeastern part of Greenland is just the start, and actually it could be the entire region there in Greenland could have gold. Like, this is just a small gold mine, and drilling is going to continue through winter, which should tell you something. Amarok is going to be drilling through the winter. Nobody drills in the winter there because Greenland winters suck. Okay. They're not going to be drilling unless they're confident that there's a payoff, and they are confident that there's a payoff. So right now, the drilling, the underground work, what they're focused on is, and they've done some of this, and they released this in their 2025 report, the Amarok company. But what they're focused on right now, they want to figure out exactly what gold is there. They also want to get resource conversion under control. So they want to figure out what gold is there as far as economically meaningful gold, and whatever maybe gold is there, where they convert it, like actually convert it into mineable gold economically. And this is like maybe gold. They can convert it, the resource, into mineable gold, economically meaningful gold. And that's called resource conversion. So they are focused on resource definition, resource conversion, and they are focused on advancing this development into deeper parts of the mine, going past the mountain block, going past the main vein, and seeing how far this system goes, and if this is a regional thing. And they are picking up right where those old operators quit. So they're also doing something called a westward drive in this mine. So in plain English, what they're going to do is they're tunneling west to see if this mountain block mineral corridor keeps going. So they're going to try to expand that mountain block mineral corridor and see if there is a whole new chapter of gold there. And, this is territory that the old miners, the old owners of this mine, never touched. Okay, so this is not guesswork. They are the geologists there on the ground. They're using precise targeting drilling tactics, and they're not doing expensive guesswork. So the reason why I bring all of this up is because we could, if there's an agreement, an annexation agreement, which I think is less likely now because they think that they've got all this leverage. But if anybody was to do it, it would be Donald Trump to negotiate a deal with Greenland because he's just got big cojones. I quite frankly, and I talked about this, I don't know what his next move is. It's really hard telling if they're going to do an annexation agreement, if I was advising the Trump administration, well, I don't know. I mean, if I would think that basing their military base, providing some defense for Greenland is more possible than total annexation. I'll get to that here in just a second. But, this is not we could have gold if there was an annexation agreement. We could have gold within a few years, all of it. And, of course, throw throw the money back into Greenland, invest in those people there, the 50,000 or something. But the CEO of Amarok, Oliver Gilbertstein, he's the CEO of Amarok. He pointed out that their 2025 exploration campaign stretches across southern Greenland, the gold belt there, but that this could potentially turn into a regional system that includes this project. So translation, Nelanak might not be the exception, that it might not just be this gold mine, but it's a proof of concept, and they could take this and mine a ton of gold. So Donald Trump has got to get cozy with this company, I'd imagine. So people say, does this make annexation more likely or less likely? I think that the answer is less likely unless Greenland decides to give up what tiny little sovereignty they have, and they wise up and they say, hey, we can't defend this thing. Denmark can't defend this thing. We're sitting on a gold mine. We're strategically located. Everybody wants us. The smartest thing to do here, the smartest play would be to give up what tiny little sovereignty you have, this fake sovereignty, give that up for security. And gold prices, like I said, really high. The global powers right now are circling the Arctic like sharks. They want Greenland. Greenland has leverage. They've never been stronger. And this mineral wealth, including gold, is good for Greenland, but it makes Greenland think that they're more independent. And if I were advising President Donald Trump or the War Department, I'd advise them, or Secretary Rubio, if he were going to sit down and have this meeting, I would look at some basing deals, military basing, where they can get American ships in there right away, aircraft, because frankly, I mean, I don't see annexation being possible. But then again, it's President Donald Trump. I didn't think he would take Venezuela without a single American being harmed. I didn't think that was possible. And all of a sudden, he did it, in the middle of the night, and took their president. And he's shipping 30 barrels of oil, within the coming days. So if anybody can do it, it's got to be Donald Trump, right? Yeah, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. May I offer my take? Go ahead. Yes, of course. Hello, Cat. Cool name. Yes, that is my name, Cat. Short for Katrina. I am the conservative cat. Appreciate you being here. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get into, if you offer your take, I'll be sure to read the comment section. Anyone know where I can pre-order my 51 star flags? Stop it. Oh, that was good. That made my day. That's hilarious. Comment of the day so far. This one right here. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if anybody can do it, it'd be Donald Trump. But I mean, Greenland, and now let's get into the Marco Rubio thing, because this is ties into all of it. Greenland thinks that they're the bee's knees, like they are, like, you know, they've got all this leverage, and they do. I mean, they're sitting on this gold mine. They're strategically located. You're like 50,000 people. You're not a real nation, really. I mean, and you're an autonomous possession of Denmark. Denmark can't protect you. So this is why I think that they have called for, quote, an urgent meeting, the Greenland leaders and the Denmark leaders, with Marco Rubio. And I think that they're realizing that they can't defend this thing. So complete annexation through the art of the deal, possible. But they're definitely looking to the United States to provide some sort of defense. They have struck gold, literally, Greenland. And the Danish and Greenland ministers for foreign affairs, they have reached out for what they describe as a special meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who is like the Chuck Berry of Washington. He is the hardest working guy in government, except perhaps the president. Okay, so they reached out to Marco Rubio. So they're wanting to get things done. Denmark, Greenland, these ministers, okay, of foreign affairs. So it's not known what Denmark and Greenland wish to discuss exactly with Marco Rubio at this point. But they want to do it sooner rather than later. And Greenland and Denmark have reportedly requested a special meeting with Marco Rubio. At least that's what the Greenland Foreign Minister, Vivian Motzfeldt, posted on social media. Look, you might want to get in line, Greenland, because Marco Rubio is running everything from the National Archives to Venezuela these days. So, yeah, he might be a little busy. You got to get in line, get on the calendar. Now, here's what she had to say, and I'm kind of translating loosely. I threw this into ChatGPT to try to translate it. So take that and do with it what you will. But I'm translating here loosely. Okay, so the government of Greenland, this is what she said on social media. The government of Greenland and the Danish government have contacted the United States Department of State with a request for an early ministerial meeting between the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and the Greenland Minister of Foreign Affairs and Research, Vivian Motzfeldt, and the Danish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Lars Løkke Rasmussen. Okay, so they're wanting a meeting, an urgent meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the United States striking statements regarding Greenland. Okay, so the United States statements, really the president's comments about how he wants it. Okay, so up to now, it has not been possible for U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to meet with the government of Greenland, even though the government of Greenland and the Danish government have repeatedly throughout 2025 requested a meeting at the foreign minister level. This is what she said on social media, okay? The Greenland minister. So, given the adversarial, vibe from that social media post, what do you guys think? Do you think annexation of Greenland is possible? I don't think that it's going to be on the agenda, but who knows? It's the Trump administration, right? I think it's safe to bet that they're not willing to talk about annexation. We might get a deal where we provide defense, and in exchange we get a cut of the gold, and we get an air base there, or a military base there. Okay, ships, aircraft. you know, at least part of the meeting, they're going to be discussing, and this meeting is at this level. She said a foreign minister or a minister level. You know, she wants a foreign meeting at a foreign minister level. So this is Euro speak for they want somebody like our Secretary of State. So he's like the equivalent, Marco Rubio, to a foreign minister. And they want to talk to a head honcho. Okay. They don't want to talk to you know, a mid-level guy. They want to talk to the guy, okay, about this. So they're being adversarial sort of tone in this. And this meeting is likely going to, in part, be about the comments made by President Donald Trump about how he wants Greenland. So there's certainly probably going to be more talked about than that. You know, these administration officials, these foreign ministers, they don't get together like that at that level just to air their grievances about what they say in the media, okay, and what Donald Trump has said in the media. They're not going to just get together for that, especially considering what we just talked about, the gold mine, okay, that they're sitting on. So on Air Force One, Donald Trump was asked about Greenland. Let's take a listen to what he had to say. Here we go.
It's about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true.
Sir,
they thought that was a great move.
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland? What would the justification?
Oh, I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And the European Union needs us to have it. And they know that.
Oh. Read between the lines there, okay? What Donald Trump is saying is that Denmark is not going to be able to protect you, Greenland. Like, come on. You're sitting on a gold mine. Gold, I like this comment as well. Goldland. You mean Goldland. Yes, they're sitting on a gold mine. They're strategically located. You've got the sharks circulating, Russia, China. He mentioned that, and he said, we need Greenland. Donald Trump. So there are parts of that statement that the Danish, Greenland government's officials, they're going to perk up and they're going to be like, what? Wait, what? And the president is, of course, right, okay, about Greenland and the strategic military value there. He also alluded to the minerals there, but I don't think that Donald Trump even knew the extent of what's there. You know, like Alaska is the crown jewel of the Pacific. Greenland, while it's less habitable, they are the crown jewel of the Atlantic. And Greenland is, you know, in a very fortunate spot where you can control Atlantic entries into the Arctic Ocean. And, you know, it's just going to become more and more valuable. And I think you want the United States on your side, not China, not Russia. Okay. And it'll be interesting to see if Rubio can, you know, carve out some time for this meeting, what he will do in this meeting, what will be discussed. We don't know, obviously. But you got to stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. So yeah, that's Greenland. It's been in the news. Greenland has been in the news, and you know, we've got to move on that quickly. I don't know. I think in the next, I don't know, he's going to do something on Trump. I don't know what this meeting is going to wind up breeding, but we'll have to see. All right, I got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back. Tammy Duckworth, she's in the news again. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I will be right back.
Real strength doesn't need applause, and real faith doesn't flex for attention. Jesus said, when you fast, don't walk around looking miserable. Try to look holy. That's not devotion. That's performance. And God doesn't reward actors. Matthew 6, verses 16 through 18. Is Jesus calling men to fast in secret, where only the Father sees? Because fasting isn't about proving your discipline. It's about pursuing God with hunger, so real, you trade food for fire. You don't fast to earn points. You don't fast to make space. You weaken the flesh so the spirit gets louder. You say no to your cravings so you can say yes to something deeper. But here's the catch. It's got to be real. Not for your boys, not for social media, just you and God. In the quiet, in the dark. That's where rewards are born. In silence, in secret, in the furnace of unseen obedience. You want to be strong in public? Train in private. Fast without a stage. Pray without applause. Obey without a crowd. Your Father sees in secret, and He's the only one who reward what matters. Patriot Pump doesn't give you just energy. It keeps you focused. No fluff, no crash, just clean, hard-driving fuel for men who train with purpose and sacrifice. If you're building discipline in the dark, this is your edge. Train hard, stay sharp.
Hey, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. I so do appreciate you being here this morning. This is the Conservative Cat Show. Now, we love our troops. We love our troops' sacrifice. We respect our troops. But we have the nerve to say no when Washington is using our soldiers as political human shields. So we are going to get into today's story. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe. This is a perfect example of how the left operates, how they use our soldiers as political shields. And if you question the policy, if you question anything they're, suggesting we do for our military, they question your patriotism and they say, you aren't a patriot. You don't care about our military. If you question the cost of things, all of a sudden you're cruel to the military. If you question ethics, you're smeared as heartless. Look, if you say, hey, maybe the federal government shouldn't fund everything under the sun, then suddenly you hate the military. No. And obviously we need to spend good money on our military. I think annually it's like $1 trillion a year. It's insanity. Which is good because that gives us a leg up over adversaries like China, Russia. When they're circling Greenland, we can come in and say, no, we're going to provide you way more defense than they could possibly ever. Or Denmark, who has a dog sled as a form of security and defense for the Greenlanders. And I think Greenland wants to be a part of the United States. Let's be real. But I'm all for spending money on the military because it puts us in good positions. Okay. But we need to reject the lie that says that we hate the military if we're being good stewards with our taxpayer dollars. Okay. Senator Tammy Duckworth, and this is kind of funny. Like, here I am, a conservative advocating for, less money being spent on our military. I thought that was like a leftist thing. But whatever. Senator Tammy Duckworth, the defense bill, there was a provision in it that would have expanded taxpayer funded IVF, in vitro fertilization through TRICARE. Now, TRICARE is the military's healthcare system. Okay. If you talk to anybody in the military, they say that the healthcare system is crap and that they can't get the services. But anyway, so this provision was stripped by Mike Johnson. Now, this is where I kind of push back on President Donald Trump. Is not a conservative by any means. He's very down the middle. And this provision was stripped by Mike Johnson. people say he stripped it because of his religious views. Sure. Okay. Who cares? That's part of it. We shouldn't be mandating the taxpayer to pay for something that some people have religious objections to, IVF. And I'm not really for IVF. The more you look into it, they're destroying embryos. Children are a heritage from the Lord. And the Bible is riddled with examples of women who have infertility problems. And it's a blessing from the Lord, a heritage from a gift from the Lord, and he can bestow that to you or not. Okay. And that's kind of my view on it. It's a religious thing. The left erupted, obviously, when that provision was stripped by Mike Johnson, the speaker. But there were Republicans who were against this, taking the religious element out of it. I mean, Republicans were estimating that this was going to cost $1 billion a year to provide IVF treatment. IVF is very expensive. And, the Democrats projected it to be $1.6 billion over 10 years. Okay. And that sounds small, and it would be worth it if that was actually true. But once you provide that service, like you start giving those, that coverage, people are going to take advantage of it. Right. So once again, the American taxpayer was told to shut up, pay up, and you better salute. You're not an American, or you're not patriotic enough if you question IVF being taxpayer funded for military members. Okay, so let's slow down, tell you the truth. The provision was quietly, the defense bill did not have it, but there was this provision that was snuck in towards the end. Okay, and it was going to expand IVF coverage for military families under TRICARE. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson, he removed this provision. Immediately, Democrats like Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth went nuclear, accused Republicans of cruelty. Advocacy groups accused Johnson of religious extremism, and the media has framed this as, how dare you? This is a heartless attack on our wounded veterans and military families. To be clear, IVF is offered to military men and women who are injured in the line of duty, active duty, and it prevents them from some sort of fertility. Okay, so let's just be blunt here, right? If a active service member experiences combat and gets blown up, and his, package doesn't quite work anymore, what the military will do is pay for IVF. So this already kind of exists, but what they're doing is expanding that coverage to everybody in the military, active or not active, inactive, or not injured. Okay, so the Center Square, there was an advocate from a group, a special interest group, and they said that this was undemocratic and it's cruel to the military. Cruel. Yeah, I guess it's cruel for taxpayers to not want to fund IVF. This isn't denying health care, okay, for battlefield injuries, okay, because like I said, there are fertility treatments offered to those who are dealing with injuries caused from the military. Like, that stuff is already given, okay. This is about refusing. This isn't about refusing treatment for service-connected illnesses. Okay. If it leaves you infertile, if there's something that happens that leaves you infertile, you will be taken care of. Okay. This provision was about expanding an elective reproductive technology and forcing Americans to pay for it for our military, inactive, active, and without injury. Okay, so whether you agree morally, ethically, financially with this, that's the reality. That's the truth. Okay, we already cover IVF to an extent. It's limited, but it's covered. They're wanting to expand it beyond, the necessity. So let's play Duckworth. This was, at the time, prior to the provision being taken out, like this is already kind of a done deal. It might come back. They will probably debate this again in a standalone bill, where they're going to try to add IVF coverage. But take a listen. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. We are now in the final stages of the NDAA negotiations. That's the defense budget. And one man, Mike Johnson, is attempting to strip the IVF portion out of that defense budget. We passed the IVF benefits for our military families, our military men and women and their families, out of the House, out of the Senate, in a bipartisan way. And it's in both versions of the bill. It should be a no-brainer that it gets passed and that we send these benefits to our troops who are in harm's way every day, defending us, protecting us. And yet, just like he did in 2024, Mike Johnson once again is attempting in the dark of night, behind closed doors, without any oversight, to undermine the will of both Democratic and Republican congressmen and women, Republican and Democratic senators, and strip this provision out of the defense budget. I need your help. He is standing in the way of military families being able to become military families. He is now taking away and countering Donald Trump's promise to the American people to provide IVF. Well, you know what? The people who deserve IVF first and foremost are the men and women who go to war to defend us. And we should at the very least be providing them with those benefits. And Mike Johnson is attempting to strip that out of this year's defense budget, just like he did last year. We have to stop him.
We have to stop him. So Duckworth, she is a wounded combat veteran, okay? And she lost her legs in service to her country. She used IVF for her children. Those are facts, all worthy of respect, but here's the problem. Personal experience does not create public obligation. Okay, and if I could sum up government, it has been so feminized, and I talk about this, and especially in Illinois, but even at the federal level, you see it. Your story does not entitle you to my tax dollars. And that's not being not compassionate. That's not being cruel. That is called constitutional restraint. And Duckworth says that the people who deserve IVF first and foremost are the men and women who go to war to defend us. Sounds very patriotic, right? Very patriotic salute. Sounds compelling, but it's also dangerous because you're certain to go down a slippery slope. Because once you declare something a deserved benefit, you remove all limits. Okay, so IVF, she says, is a no-brainer. Okay, IVF is a no-brainer. Okay, then what about surrogacy? Are we going to start doing surrogacy for men and women in the military? Are we going to do genetic selection, genetic testing of their children and highly advanced fertility preservation technology? Are we going to start using that, for convenience, by the way? So fertility preservation, say a woman enters the military, she can preserve her eggs. This is very expensive to do out of convenience. So say she doesn't want to have children in her 20s, 30s, and she would like to have children at the end of her military career. She can preserve her eggs and then have her children. Surrogacy, paid for by the taxpayer. I mean, like, where does it end? You know what I mean? Like, this is expensive stuff. And, the government, once they enter the realm of creating life, there is no natural stopping point. And as Christians, especially Christians, we should understand that creating life is God's doing. Children are a heritage from the Lord. Life is sacred. Children are not entitlements. Okay, the government should never position itself as the arbiter, the financer, the manufacturer of human life. That is going against God and going against the Bible. It's just unbiblical. And, we can talk about money. Like I said, advocates said that this was going to cost $1.6 billion over 10 years. Small, sounds small, sure. If it was $1.6 billion over 10 years, I wouldn't even be really against it. That's just a drop in the bucket. But we all know that that's not going to happen. Republicans said that it's estimated closer to $1 billion per year. So what's the real number? Honestly, we don't know. Government programs, we never know the cost of what they're like going to be until they actually like implement it. Not Medicare, Medicaid, not VA, Obamacare. Like we didn't know the cost of these things. Why? Because once a benefit exists, demand explodes. Like this is just common sense. It didn't exist before, so there was no demand for it, and your projections, your estimates were all off because there's no demand for it. It's kind of like the immigration thing, immigrant healthcare thing. So Illinois, they were like, okay, we're going to set aside $1 billion for immigrant healthcare or something like that. And, you know, estimates now, people think that it's like $3 billion that we paid for healthcare. Why? Because the immigrants are like, oh, wait, Illinois provides healthcare to me, the illegal immigrant. I'm going to go to Illinois. And that creates a demand. Okay. So once the benefit exists, the demand explodes. Okay. So suddenly limited IVF coverage has become, through this provision, and it didn't get in, thank God, but it's probably going to come back. It becomes a permanent entitlement with no guardrails. So TRICARE already struggles with military health care. Like, talk to any veteran, okay? Appointment backlogs, mental health shortages, specialty care delays, provider availability. And critics say that, hey, IVF, if you introduce like you don't want to introduce something new if you can't get the basics down. Okay. So you don't want to put your kid on a motorcycle if they can't ride a tricycle. Okay. IVF could crowd out the care, meaning that, hey, you provide IVF, then other services fall by the wayside. And that's just being realistic. Okay. Every dollar has an opportunity cost, and pretending otherwise is just fiscal malpractice. And, you know, this is a conversation that the media avoids entirely, the ethical issue of this. Okay. IVF is not morally neutral. And they try to say that this is morally neutral. I don't care what the media says. Like, people are going to have strong feelings about this and religious convictions about this. Okay. Because this routinely, IVF, its nature is the creation of embryos, the freezing of human life, and the destruction or the abandonment of those embryos. Okay. And for many Americans, especially Christians, this is not something they morally agree with. It's just like abortion. We can't force people to pay for abortion. We shouldn't be forcing taxpayers to pay for IVF. David Smith of the Illinois Family Institute quoted in the Center Square, taxpayers should not be funding this dubious medical procedure. Look, the federal government should not be forcing citizens to fund something that they don't morally believe in. Okay. And they believe destroys human life. That's not healthcare. It's, you know, nationalized morality. They're trying to say that IVF is morally neutral. It's not. Okay. So let me be very clear. I support the military. We support here at the show combat care, PTSD's treatment, proper pay, disability services, family support, transition assistance into civilian life. What I don't support is turning the military into a political shield for progressive social policy. And that's what they're doing here with IVF, because once it's done at for the military, they're going to try to do it for Medicaid for people, Medicare, and taxpayers are going to be funding that. Just like here in Illinois, what they've done, the taxpayers are paying for women to have abortion doulas, which is an oxymoron. It's a woman who guides you through your abortion, and we as taxpayers pay for that through like this Medicaid omnibus bill they just passed. So our service members are not props. Their sacrifice is not leverage. Their uniform should not be used to silence debate. And that's really what they're trying to do here. They're saying, okay, because they have the uniform on, because they serve their country, they deserve everything, including elective procedures. And, you know, this is a slippery slope. You could have women freezing their eggs. I see that as a very real possibility. Fertilization preservation. out of convenience. They don't want to have kids in their 20s. They want to have kids in their 40s. And that's kind of impossible biologically. Not impossible, but like it becomes harder and it's out of convenience. And like now you have the taxpayers paying for your fertility treatments that are, bred out of wanted out of convenience, not necessity. So the military's mission at the end of the day is national defense. And that's what like really bothers me all about this. Like we spend $1 trillion annually on the military. The military is not about population engineering. It is not about reproductive policy. It is not about ideological experimentation. And when lawmakers blur this line of what the military is actually all about, they aren't strengthening the military. They are politicizing it. And here's the bottom line. I respect Tammy Duckworth's service. I acknowledge her personal story. I support military families, and I can still say no to taxpayer-funded IVF. And that's not cruelty. That's clarity. It's not hatred. It's humility. And it's not anti-military. It's pro-constitutional government. And the left wants to expand IVF nationwide. If they want to do that, and they want to let them have a debate about it, but don't shut down people and say like, oh, you're anti-military or unpatriotic because you like want to debate this. And don't smuggle it into your defense bills, because they were the ones who smuggled that provision into the defense bill. Think about it. Defense bill. Like that has nothing to do with national defense or national offense, military operations, IVF treatments for elective IVF treatments for our military. That's got nothing to do with our national security. They smuggled it into the bill and then they shamed dissenters. Look, I don't want big government, where government comes in and pays for everything for everybody. I don't want that. And that doesn't mean that I don't love the military, right? Or respect our troops. All right, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. I so do appreciate you being here. That's going to do it for me at the end of the show here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Tell somebody about Conservative Cat today. We will be back tomorrow morning bright and early. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties this morning. That will be edited in post so you guys can, watch the show in its entirety. But I'll catch you later. Bye-bye. Love you so much.